Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. And the content that I'm going to show you, a new challenger has entered the arena. Ed Krasenstein from X, Twitter personality for the left, has found the solution to our gun violence problem. And it's so simple. All this time, it's been right underneath our noses. I'm going to walk you through it right now. And here's a big giveaway. It's egregiously bad constitutionally. Shocker. But we're going to walk through it step by step, and we're going to dismantle this all the way down to the nuts and bolts and tell you why this is a horrible idea. Everything is always linked. I always provide receipts. And of course, if you're enjoying the content, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. We are passing the blessings of the Second Amendment on to the next generation 2 and 3 times daily, and we'd love to have you along for the ride. And with that, beautiful people, if you're not on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, there's a left-wing personality who is very left-wing viewed called Ed Krasenstein, one of the two Krasenstein twins on X or Twitter or brothers, whatever. But my point here is, he just came out something about 2 hours ago, his new solution for guns and how we solve all the problems. I'm going to get right into it. There are 3 clips of what I'm about to show you. And guys, this reeks of a new challenger walking into the arena because he doesn't even know what he's talking about, but he's sure trying. So let's get into this.
So there's so much debate about guns in America, and we go back and forth, and nothing actually really gets done, right? And those who are pro-Second Amendment have a good argument, but those who want to protect our children and protect our families also have a decent argument. So what can be done? This is what I believe is the best solution. We don't need to ban AR-15s in my mind. I know I'm probably going to get a lot of heat from the left for saying this, but I think the better solution is to reclassify AR-15s and some similar weapons. And I mean, this could be something that changes depending on which firearms are used in the most mass shootings each year. I think, this can evolve.
Okay. So he just wants to reclassify everything. And that reclassification, so it started with AR-15s, right? Showed it on the screen. Big, scary black gun. I was terrified the whole time. I was actually biting my nails. You just didn't see it. He wants to reclassify those as something else. And it can evolve to include other things depending on what involves the most mass shootings or most crime or the most shootings. So, because he doesn't know the statistics quite clearly, handguns are the #1 use of gun violence in the United States by far. So, by his definition, the reclassification isn't just AR-15s, it's also going to be handguns. Because after all, you're trying to get to the core root of the problem. This is where the leftist mindset falls apart. Because the AR-15 is a vast minority of all crime committed with firearms in the United States. But they can't tell you that because they got to tell you it's the biggest specter on the planet of evil and doom and gloom. But in order to accomplish what they want, anything that's actually tied into crime can also be amended and can evolve. Because the lefties love that word evolve. So that's where we're at right now. Reclassification with a very sliding scale of what they're going to reclassify. Because vagueness has never gone wrong. But let's get into the second part here. Because he's building a case. And I want you guys to hear it out. And then we'll tear it asunder, to be quite honest with you.
But reclassify them as Title II firearms. And for those who don't know, Title II firearms currently include machine guns, sawed-off shotguns, certain types of explosives. Reclassify AR-15s in this category. And reclassifying it doesn't mean you can't buy the gun. If you're a responsible gun owner, you can still purchase this gun. Now, what does this do to the AR-15 if it's classified as Title II? It would require a tax stamp, which means you have to pay $200, and you would get the license for this gun. And if you were to transfer it, you would have to get approved by the ATF to do so. Possession is tightly regulated. The firearm must be with its paperwork, so you can't just carry it around without the paperwork. I think that's fair, right? You got to register it with the ATF, and you can't transport it interstate unless you get approval from the ATF.
Wow. But don't worry, it won't infringe upon your rights. You can't transport it from a state. Nah, ATF has to get permission to move from Alabama to Georgia. Okay, that's not tyrannical and Stasi Soviet Union. You have to have a license, so licensure to own. That would infringe your Second Amendment, right? I mean, that's what he said. You need to have the ATF register of all the time, have the paperwork with it. So papers, please. That wouldn't be bad. Let's see, what else did he say? Reclassify it to get a tax stamp, so now only the people who have money to spend have their rights, and the minority, the populace, the plebeians, they can't get their rights. Because it's a tax stamp, after all, which is a well-known statist point of the left, that you cannot have the lesser among us having guns. They're obviously too stupid to take care of themselves. So let's put it behind tax stamping and make them pay for their fingerprints, make them pay for their background checks, and the right to even have that right must be paid for. I can't remember the first two. The point is, he wants to put everything behind an NFA. Okay? Pistols. Again, a sliding scale, right? AR-15s, sliding scale, whatever does the most damage. So you can still have your guns. You just can't have them without paying for them. And a universal background check and a registry. That's the other two I forgot. So all of these things, right, makes total sense. It's not an infringement at all. You can't have a registry from federal law, and also that's how you get a complete confiscation down the road when the government knows where all the guns are. It's pretty straightforward. Putting a right behind a tax, unconstitutional. You can't do that. You cannot tax a right. It is Supreme Court precedent. I mean, these guys continue to go down the exact same roads where they would put taxes on voting, like poll taxes, but all of a sudden putting taxes on firearms, that's perfectly fine because you can still have the gun. It's not illegal. We didn't ban it. You just can't get it unless you pay for it. It's kind of like saying you can vote, but you got to pay for it first. Nobody? Nothing? These are the bastions of freedom, of liberalism, who say that rights are for everyone except the ones they don't agree with. Now, this third part, this is where we just kind of go off the rails, I'll be honest with you, because he tries to reaffirm the fact that it's not an infringement upon your Second Amendment rights, and it absolutely is, in a really egregious way. But let's continue.
These aren't ridiculous restrictions on owning guns like this. It just makes sure that criminals have a much more difficult time of obtaining a weapon like this. It makes sure that children have a harder time getting it, or 18-year-old kids or seniors in high school have a harder time obtaining one of these weapons. So no, we don't need to ban them, in my opinion, but we can increase the regulation. And people are going to say, oh, but that's anti-Second Amendment. No, it's not, because we already have this same classification for multiple types of firearms.
That's crazy. It's funny you brought that up. I've been meaning to speak with you about the NFA. That's also unconstitutional. That's a tax on your rights. So one of the beautiful parts about when they do this is they always undermine the existing unconstitutionality of these laws that they had in place. And even later in that same Twitter feed, he's like, well, news to you, it's been law for 100 years. We know, we're working on it. The Bruin decision's really cranking them out. But the whole point here is he's lauding this as, well, criminals won't be able to get guns. Criminals have background checks through the NICS background check system now. That is not going to change if they have to pay a $200 tax stamp. That is a ludicrous idea. But this is the point of doing this video, and the reason that I focused on this, and it honestly caught my attention. They try to go down this road, people who want to ban guns or infringe upon the Second Amendment rights, and they want to couch it as something else. They want to say, well, it's common sense regulation. After all, it's for the children. We don't want criminals to get guns, do we? And they try to go down this road of, it just makes sense to have the papers with the gun, right? Because you paid the tax that you have to have the right, so why wouldn't you need the papers that proved you paid the tax with the gun? And then you can't go over state lines, because you got to get permission for that. Literally, he just went from paying a tax for your rights to having papers, please, to you can't cross this border through a checkpoint. And it's all for the children. It's all for safety, and it's not an infringement on the 2A rights. He literally went from a free state all the way to frickin' socialist Russia, and he's like, what is the problem? And that's what I've got for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.